What is going on, guys? It is Venom Surge here, and welcome back to another episode of Elder Scrolls Online. Today we are looking at the Runic Shaman, an Arcanist healer build, and this thing is very powerful. I think they did a really great job with how the healer turned out. It was very difficult to choose what I wanted. There's so many skills that I wanted to put on the bars that I was really struggling with what I actually wanted. So first, let's take a look at the sets. So first up, we are using Yorvold's Guidance. This comes from Skill Caller Peak. You can do it on normal or vet. It is a light armor set. It gives you 2 lines of mag recovery and healing done. And then while you're in combat, which is important, it increases the duration of all major and minor buffs, as well as damage shields you apply to yourself and allies by 40%. You could put this anywhere on your body pieces. We're using 2 light armor pieces, so that won't matter. Next up, we are using Spell Power Cure. This comes from White Gold Tower. Everyone has access to this. You could also farm this on normal or vet. It gives you 2 lines of magicka, a line of spell damage, and then when you overheal yourself or an ally, which means they have to be at full health and you heal on top of that, but that happens constantly, you give the target major courage for 5 seconds, which increases their spell damage and weapon damage by 430. So like I said, you can mix this with Yorvold's in any combination. Next up, we are using Symphony of Blades. This comes from Depths of Malatar. You have to do it on vet to get the helmet, or you can get it from the golden vendor if it happens to be on rotation. This gives you healing done, and when you heal an ally who's under 50% of their primary resource, you grant them Meridia's Favor, which restores 570 magicka or stamina every second for 6 seconds, and this can occur once every 18 seconds per target. And the resource they restore is based off of their highest maximum resource. So we are putting light on the helmet and shoulder, so everything's light. And then as far as the enchants, we are doing divines on all the pieces, as well as max mag for the enchants. On the jewelry, we are using Arcane with the Magicka variant for the weapon and spell damage. On the staves, we are doing 2 healing staves. They're both precise. One has the Absorb Magicka enchant on the back bar, and then weapon damage enchant on the front bar. And if you guys don't have the Scale Caller Peak DLC, another option you could do Wisdom of Vanis. This will give you major mending for an extra 5 seconds, which would be a total of 9 seconds after doing a fully charged heavy attack. You could also do Mother's Sorrow. That would work great for this build setup. We are kind of crit focused, and you'll see why later. As far as the stats go, we have 38k magicka, 18k health, 13k stam, and 2k mag recovery. We got 3.6k spell damage, and we got about 48% crit chance. We got 17k spell resist and 9k physical resist, and this is unbuffed. If we get buffed up here, we got about 3k mag recovery, and we get about 4.8k spell damage, and our resistance goes up to about 20k on spell and 12k on physical resist. And then we are doing 64 attributes into magicka, and we are using the Thief Mundus Stone. For the consumables, I am using Ghastly Eyeball. You get about 4600 max mag and about 460 mag recovery for 2 hours, and it scales with your level, so you can use this all the way through your leveling process. It's a very easy to get, and it's not as expensive as some of the other stuff. And if you do want, you could get some of the more expensive stuff to get more health, but you will lose out on your pools. And then for the potions, we are just using the Crown Tri Restoration Potion. You can just do any trio resto pot, get all those resources and major resource recovery. And now for the skills. First off, we are using Combat Prayer. When you hit this, it makes a giant carpet in front of you that heals all of your allies for 12k. It also grants them and you minor Berserk and minor Resolve, which increases your damage done by 5% and increases your resistance by 3k for 10 seconds. Now, because of your volts, this will be increased to about 14 seconds. Next up, we are using Radiating Regeneration. This is for dungeons pretty much. In trials, you'd have to spam this more often, but when you hit this, it heals you or up to 3 allies, so 3 people total, and they'll all heal for about 16k over 10 seconds. It's a very powerful heal. Usually when this ticks, you'll get about 3k and then 4k when it crits. Next up, we are using Inner Light on our bar. This is just on the front bar, and it's just slotted for the passive where it gives us spell crit chance, and it also increases our max mag by 5%. This is not needed, however. Later I'll go over some flex spots if you don't want to be using this, if you don't want to go crit based. Next up, we are using Curative Surge. When you hit this, it is a beam that you actually have to aim, and it is a very, very long heal, and it goes over 4.5 seconds, so it is a channel. And when you hit this, it will also heal for up to 192% more at the end of its duration. And if you have Crux, which we'll go over in a second, it will restore 728 magicka and stamina per Crux spent to your allies over that duration. So I'll pop it here just so that way you guys can get a sense of what it looks like. So it's this cone in front of me, and it actually does go for quite a ways away, but you do have to aim this. It's based on where your crosshair is, so it's kind of new to the game. So if people start running over there, you will have to look over at them to hit it, but it is our kind of burst heal, and even without any Crux or anything, as you can see, we can get some pretty high ticks unbuffed. When you are buffed, you can get like 25k ticks every half second. It is a very powerful skill. And then lastly, on the front bar, we have Chakram of Destiny. This is a shield skill for you or up to 4 allies. When you hit this, you will everyone gains a shield that is about 7.9k damage that it will absorb for 6 seconds. Now, because of your volts, this will also be boosted up to 8.4 seconds. And if you recast this on a target who's already shielded, it will grant a new shield that is 30% stronger. So it'll go up to about a 9 to 10k shield. And these discs will prefer to go based on where your crosshair is, or anyone who is low health that don't have shields, but it is in a cone. So if Grasharog here is over there and I hit this, it's not gonna get him if that was a player. I don't think you can actually put it on him anyways, but if he was facing over there, it won't get him. It is a cone, so you do have to be in the general vicinity of him. So the way Crux works is, first of all, you have to be in combat. So let me hit this guy. When you hit your ward, you will create a Crux, which is that little triangle that's floating around me. So that Crux, you can get up to 3 of them. Once you're at 3, you can see down there, my book skill is glowing now. So if I hit this, it'll consume all of them, and it will heal for a lot more and give all those resources back to the players. And then for our front bar ultimate, we are using Glyphic of the Tides. When you hit this, it spawns a Glyphic that spawns at 53% health, and it grows stronger the more you heal it. As you're healing it, it can give you and 12 allies up to 200 weapon and spell damage, and it will also heal all the allies in there for about 4k health every second in proportion to its health. If you get it to full health before it runs out, the Glyphic will also give everyone major protection, reducing their damage taken by 10%. A very important thing to note here, the healing does not do 12 people, just the weapon damage and the major protection gives to 12 people. The healing is only for 6 people, so what it does is each time it procs the heal, it pays attention to who is the lowest health, and it will only heal them. So if you're already full, it will just straight up ignore you. So the people who do need it most will get it, which is kind of nice, but if everyone's getting hit, this thing won't be healing everyone. But it is very powerful, and initially people were thinking we'd do the DPS morph. However, even with this, just me alone, here's the Glyphic, just the beam skill gets it to full health before the beam even ends. So, and you still have a lot of time for it to be up, and it's a good size radius too, so we have the major protection and the spell damage that it gives. And what's also important about it is the spell damage is also non-named, so it is a unique 200 weapon and spell damage, so it will stack with everything else. Next up on the back bar, we are using Xena's Empowering Disc. When you hit this, it makes an 8-meter radius around you for 20 seconds, and anyone who stands in this gains minor recovery to all resources and minor courage, which increases your weapon and spell damage by 200, and the recoveries are increased by 15%. Now, this morph makes it so that way the allies who enter it get to keep these buffs for 10 seconds after they leave it. The other morph just heals you, and it only gives you the buffs if you stay in it. So for mobile fights, this would not work as well. So when you hit that, you can just leave it here and it will stay with you. Now, if you're in combat, it will last for 14 seconds instead of 10 seconds. So it is much better off to do this morph. The heal was about 2k every 2 seconds, so it wasn't a strong heal anyways. I figured this would be a better option. Next up, we are using Recuperative Treatise. When you hit this, it will pulse with power every 5 seconds, and anytime you use any of your class abilities, it will give an additional 4k magic damage to the enemy, and it will restore 600 magicka and stamina, and it will generate crux if you don't have any currently. And while this is slotted on either bar, you gain major brutality and sorcery, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 20%. This doesn't do much for the extra damage, however, depending on one of the flex spots you use, it could get the generated crux every now and then. It's mainly just there for the sorcery though, so if you want, you could just do spell power pots, and you can slot this out for something else. Next up, we are using Energy Orb. This comes from the Undaunted line. When you hit this, it creates an orb that slowly moves forward and heals everyone for 2k health every second. And the main reason why we use this is allies can use a synergy, which will heal them for 9k and restore 4k resources to the activator. Next up, we are using Rune Guard of Freedom. When you hit this, you and your group members gain minor resolve for 20 seconds. Now this we already get from the combat prayer, however, this is a longer duration, so it is nicer to keep up, and you also gain minor protection for 20 seconds, reducing your damage taken by 5%, and the first time you are damaged when you're below 50% health, the minor protection is consumed and it'll heal you for 6k health, which scales off of your max health, so it's not a lot, but you also gain 3k armor and crowd control immunity for 6 seconds, and that can occur once every 30 seconds. Like I said, the main reason we use this is it's just easier to proc on your allies than combat prayer, so for trials, I would highly recommend this. However, if you don't want to use that, the other skill that I was using most of the time in dungeons and in more smaller groups where I could use combat prayer to get the minor resolve, I've been using Rune of the Colorless Pool. When you hit this, it will stun an enemy if they can be stunned and put them in fear. But the reason why we use this is it also gives minor vulnerability and minor brittle for 20 seconds. This increases the damage taken by 5% and crit damage taken by 10%. And if it's used against a monster, the paralyze lasts for 8 seconds and it cannot be dodged. So this is a very, very powerful skill, and it will really boost your group's DPS if they don't already have those debuffs. And then next up, we are using Illustrious Healing. When you hit this, it is a giant AoE that you can target on your crosshair, so it's not based on where you're at, and it'll heal for 31k over 15 seconds. You want to make sure you always keep up your heals. The Arcanist does have a burst heal called Evolving Rudiment, and it'll heal for 4.3k health over 3 times when you hit this, and it'll also give them a little HOT. It's about 18k healing to 19k healing, but it's over 3 times, which I think might just be so that way it helps with the crit chance, but it also reduces the cost of the ability for each active crux. This I just found I'd rather hit my shield. It does more people, and I don't know, it's just weird. I feel like I prefer the Chakram of Destiny anyways, especially because these shields are going to give you the extra healing, so if they're full, you're wasting magicka hitting this, whereas the chakram, at least, their health bars can be further enhanced. Now, instead of recrupative retreats, you could also do overflowing altar. It'll apply minor lifesteal to all enemies in the area, which will heal you and your allies for 660 health every second when you damage them. And allies can synergize and heal for 65% of their max health, and this costs health, which is basically free since you're a healer. So if you don't want that major sorcery and you're fine with using potions or a different skill, you can slot that on as well. Now, we also don't have a purge, so if you want, you could use the efficient purge from the support line. When you hit this, it'll cleanse yourself and your group, removing up to 3 negative effects immediately for 4k magicka. And then for the ultimate on the back bar, we are using aggressive warhorn, which increases you and your group's max resources by 10% for 30 seconds. And everyone gains major force for 10 seconds, which increases their crit damage by 20%. And that is also increased with Yorvold, so it would be 14 seconds. Now, we are a Breton to give us max mag, increase our spell resistance, and increase mag recovery, and then reduces the cost of mag abilities by 7%. And then make sure you go into alchemy and get your medicinal use so your potions last 30% longer, so they have 100% uptime. Now we're going to go into the passives. I'm going to just cover the ones that are most important for this build, and over time you will want to get all of the passives you can that have some sort of effect, even if it is occasionally. But first up, in the Herald of the Tome line, we are going to get Fated Fortune. This is why I'm kind of crit based, is when you generate or consume any crux, you increase your crit healing and damage by 12% for 7 seconds. So we get 12% crit healing, and there's some other things that have to do with crit. So I just kind of low-key pushed that. That's why Mother Sorrow is also one of the kind of recommended sets for this build. Next up, we're going to get Harnessed Quintonance. When you restore any magicka or stamina, you increase your weapon and spell damage by 5% for 10 seconds. This will just help your healing overall. Psychic Lesion is nice, however, it does not apply to us, and neither does Splintered Secrets. Next up, in Soldier of Apocrypha, if you are using the Rune Guard of Freedom skill, you will want to get Aegis of the Unseen. When you have a Soldier of Apocrypha ability on you, your armor is increased by another 2k, so you will get quite tanky if you have that, or if you do Crux Weaver armor, which gives you major resolve. And whether you have the Rune Guard of Freedom or the Rune of the Colorless Pool on your back bar, just for having it slotted, you will gain 129 resource recovery. And then Circumvented Fate is a very important one. You want to make sure you get this as soon as possible. If you cast any Arcanist ability, it will give you and your entire group minor evasion for 20 seconds, which reduces your damage taken from AoEs by 10%, and it can occur every 5 seconds. So this will be up 100% of the time. And then you will want to get Implacable Outcome. When you consume Crux, you gain 4 ultimate, and it can occur once every 8 seconds. That's nice just to get your ultimate going up again. Now, in the Curative Rune Forms tree, you will want to get Healing Tides. When you do have a Crux on you, it increases your healing done by 3% per Crux. So you will get 9% healing if you don't consume them. However, if you stay at that full ability, you will lose that crit healing from before. So you will want to make sure you consume it every now and then, but you could just build it back up pretty quickly with those shields. You will want to get Hideous Clarity. Whenever you generate Crux, you will restore 225 magicka or stamina, whichever is higher. And then you will want to get Erudition. This will just increase your mag and stam recovery by 18%, just flat out. And then Intricate Rune Forms, it will reduce the cost and increase the strength of your damage shields by 10%. That is why I've been focusing the damage shield more than the burst heal. It is pretty powerful. Now there is, I don't know if it's a bug or something overlooked in the CP, but I'll get to that in a second. In the Rest of Staff tree, you will want to get Essence Drain. This is where you get Major Mending for 4 seconds after you complete a fully charged heavy attack. So when you hit a heavy attack and then your beam, you're just gonna be bursting out heals like crazy. Restoration Expert is important, just that way you get more healing when allies are low health. Cycle of Life is amazing for your sustain. This will make it so you gain 30% more magicka when you do a fully charged heavy attack. Absorb is nice. If you do happen to block an attack, you will gain 300 magicka, and it can occur once every 0.25 seconds. And then Restoration Master, just for having Restoration Staff equipped, you will gain 5% more healing to the staff abilities. In the armor, since we're full light armor, you will want to get Grace. It'll reduce the effectiveness of snares applied to you by 28%, as well as cost of sprint by 21%. Evocation's one of the main ones. It'll make your mag recovery increased by 28% and reduce the cost of mag abilities by 14%. Spell warding gives you 5k extra resistance, and Prodigy will give you 1500 extra spell crit. Concentration is nice. If you do happen to do some damage, you can do 6.5k extra penetration. In the Mages Guild, if you are using Inner Light, you will want to get Magicka Controller. This will increase your max mag and your mag recovery by 2%. Just extra, so you'll get a total of 7% for having that slotted. In the Undaunted, you will want to get Undaunted Command. You get more resource returned when you activate a synergy, and Undaunted Metal increases your max resource pools based on how many types of armor you have equipped. So if you want, you could do a medium and heavy piece just so you get 6% more resources. However, I like the sustain much better. If you are using Efficient Purge, you would want to get Magicka Aid. This will just give you more Magicka recovery by 10%. And now for the CP, we're going over here to Soothing Tide. This will increase our AoE heals by 10%. Swift Renewal will give us 10% more healing done with our HOTs. And then Rejuvenator will give us 200 extra weapon and spell damage for our healing abilities. Normally you would want to do Focus Mending, however, we don't have any single target heals. The only thing that would kind of count is the Radiating Regeneration. However, that technically says target is area. I'm not sure if that would exactly count. However, that's just one skill, and you may not have that if you're in Trials. So we're going down here into Mastered Creation, and we are getting Enlivening Overflow. If you overheal yourself or an ally, which we already want to do because of the Spell Power Cure set, it will give them recoveries up to 150, which we do hit, on all resources, and it can occur for once every 12 seconds, and it lasts for 6 seconds. So this is just nice to get people more resources back. Next up in the red tree, we're going up here. We get Boundless Vitality, so we get 1400 max health. Fortified, so we get 1700 armor. Spirit Mastery to decrease the time it takes to resurrect an ally in case someone does go down. And then Shield Master, which reduces the cost of your damage shield abilities by 10%. Here's where the glitch is. I'm not sure if it was overlooked or if it's glitched or if it was intentional, but Bastion does not affect your Chakram of Destiny currently. But just for having this slotted, usually your shields will be increased on the tooltip, and you can also see it on your bar. When I equip this, the Chakram does not increase, and when I actually apply it on myself, it does not increase either. So I don't know what's up with that, but this is not working for Chakram of Destiny, just so you're aware. That is why I'm using Spirit of Mastery and the Shield Master. So guys, in the background footage, as you can see, I took Ember into Hel Ra Citadel. We just did it on normal. We couldn't do a full up run like you usually do with a group. However, we were able to make it all the way up to the priests. The priests did kill me a few times. That's because they kept stunning me. Obviously that won't happen if you actually have a proper group and stuff, but we actually survived very, very well. And the beam is just freaking powerful with some instances where you can see my health like dip super low, then instantly back up. It's just a very powerful build. I just wanted to show off Ember's build real quick so I can show how she didn't have any healing. So she had these skills here, which do not provide any healing. The Hurricane Visage does give the reduced damage taken by 20%. However, that is the only thing helping her survive. She was just in full medium armor with quickened traits. So yeah, I was very shocked with how she never ended up getting low. It was mainly me, but that's because I had aggroed everything. So yeah, this build's very powerful. I was really impressed with how the healing is, and I feel like you could maybe even drop some of the other healing skills and get out more skills that are going to be providing even more buffs. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please like and subscribe if you guys want to see more of this content. Sorry, it took a while to get my Arcanist healing out. I just started working and it's been pretty tiring recently. So hopefully I can start getting this closer. We are very close to hitting 1,000 subscribers, which I am very excited for. So hope you guys have a good day and I will see you guys next time.